Do Deion Sanders and Colorado have a quarterback problem? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner, so visit FanDuel the app today and start planning your futures bets now. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you for making me your first listen of the day. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Does Colorado have a quarterback problem? That is the question that I am posing all of you, posing to myself, and posing to college football in general, because it's Monday. The Buffs take the field on Friday, which, I mean, we all know, we're all excited. They're playing Georgia Tech. It's going to be a great one. The Yellow Jackets are probably going to be an ACC contender, or at least in the mix. And the Buffs are looking to form a new culture, new identity without Shedeur and Travis Hunter. And to replace Shedeur Sanders, they brought in Caden Salter from Liberty and five-star freshman Julian Lewis. Now, here's where the problem lies. And there's really two trains of thoughts. The Colorado Buffaloes have yet to name a quarterback, right? They don't release their depth chart until, I believe, Thursday-ish, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember when they release it, but they have not released it yet. Well, a lot of teams are announcing it today. They will have to do so with the injury report, with the Big 12 rule and all that jazz eventually, but they haven't released one yet. When asked about it today, Pat Shurmur said that he's not going to name one. That's up to Coach Prime. So basically, there's two possibilities. One, they don't know who the quarterback is just yet, which means they're either both really good and it's hard to separate them, or neither the one of them has done enough to separate himself from the other. And so On3 was reporting today again that they might go to a platoon system, which, if you're not familiar with, they're going to go Caden Salter one drive, Julian Lewis another, or they just may go like Caden Salter this formation, Julian Lewis another. And so it led me to wondering, like, how many times has a team ran a two quarterback system and it worked out? So I did some research, and the best example I could find was Florida with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, right? That example was frequently popping up, frequently mentioned when I pitched this idea to other people. And here's the big problem with the Leak Tebow experience. I'm looking at Tim Tebow's college stats right now. Obviously, great player, one of the best, if not the best quarterback to ever play college football. That being said, Tim Tebow was basically a glorified Wildcat quarterback. He had 22 passing attempts his freshman year, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. But here's where he made his impact with the team was 89 rushing attempts for 5.3 yards per carry. Now, are we going to just assume that Caden Salter is going to be a Wildcat quarterback for the Buffs and just run the ball every so often? No, because I think Colorado has shown already that they will not deploy a quarterback just to run the ball, right? Last year would have been a prime opportunity. They had Walter Taylor, who, although struggled with accuracy, the former Vanderbilt transfer, he could have come in and ran the ball, right? They had Destin Wade, who was a guy that many thought should have moved to tight end. He could have moved the ball with his legs, right? And yet they didn't deploy any of them to boost up the run game, because that would have meant taking Shedeur Sanders out. And I think that would have meant more chaos. So there's Chris Leak, there's Tim Tebow. So that's a example-ish. Another prime example that came up was Cardale Jones and JT Barrett, right? If you remember correctly, Cardale Jones led the team to a title after a bunch of injuries, thrust him from like third to fourth string to starting quarterback. And then JT Barrett eventually, I mean, he was the starter, got hurt. And then they kind of had like this weird, like, will they, won't they? And eventually they had to make a decision, right? Literally in the description of their two quarterback system, it says, while not perfect, they still had a very successful season. JT Barrett rotated in and eventually took over later in the year, right? Eventually it plays itself out, right? So Colorado finds itself in a position where they may not have a starting quarterback picked out just yet, but it'll eventually play itself out. If it doesn't, that's a whole other problem. And let me get to that right now. For the two quarterback systems that have not worked out, you had Case McCoy and David Ash. You had John Brantley, Trey Burton, and Jordan Reed at Florida back in the day. You had Deshaun Kaiser and Malik Zaire, right? When you try to play two quarterbacks, all it leads to is division within the locker room, division within the fan base, and division across everything, right? You have sort of, even coaches. You have some players or fans, who are like, well, I like what Caden does here. I like what Julian does here. And then it's like, okay, well, now we have a constant conversation hanging over us throughout the year. It turns into a discussion of like, hey, we have two guys that are both so good they could play, to like, hey, this is now becoming a distraction, right? This is becoming a distraction because half our team wants X player to play quarterback while the other half is all convinced that this guy should be quarterback. And then fans and media members are going to constantly talk about it until it is resolved. So the Colorado Buffaloes really find themselves in a precarious situation. Is Deion Sanders sort of maybe trying to keep Georgia Tech on their toes, right? I think there's this element of surprise this year with Colorado because at the end of the day, the offense was so predicated on Shedeur Sanders being able to make plays with his arm that there is a whole new playbook coming into town this year, right? Caden Salter, if he's a starter, the RPO is going to be a huge aspect of the run, or the scheme, the quarterback design run, huge aspect of the offense this year. Julian Lewis, he's probably got the best arm of the three of them. And maybe that changes things. Maybe Colorado gets more vertical, right? Or maybe Colorado, they take more risk in the passing game, right? They're going to run the ball more. And for Georgia Tech, they're a team that a lot of people are expecting to be really good, right? Kirk Herbstreit named Haynes King as one of the most underrated players in the country, or as a guy to know. So this roster, this Georgia Tech team, they're coming in feeling pretty good, right? So if Deion Sanders is trying to get a little bit of an advantage with the mental aspect of like, hey, you won't know who we're going to play until snap one. I could see that. But, and that's not a problem to me. A problem to me is the team not having a clear plan or path at quarterback that actually makes sense, right? And you could say all you want, oh, there could be a plan to work with two quarterbacks. It just doesn't work, right? And I know people are going to go back to that Tebow Leak situation. Tebow Leak was basically Chris Leak throws the ball all the time and is the primary starting quarterback. And then they bring in Tebow every once in a while because they need him to run, right? I don't think that's what Caden Salter signed up for his senior year of college, right? I don't think that's why they brought him in, to be like, hey, we really like your skill set, but here's the thing. We like this freshman better. So you're just going to run quarterback power. We're just going to run a little design run over here, design sweep to you, or whatever they conjure up this year, right? That's not why Caden Salter's here. That's not why they brought him in. I do think that means that the quarterback battle is a lot closer than they expected, which, if they handle it right, is a good problem to have. But if they don't handle it right, this is a disastrous problem to have. So you guys comment below who should be starting for the Buffs and how many games, if they do deploy a multi-quarterback system, how many games do you think they will stick with it for? When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest on Shilo and Shedeur Sanders. Let's just say this past weekend was not kind to either of them. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Rugia. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugia Ready. Rugia Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that could take hours, Rugia's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes, effects can last up to 36 hours. So you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Head to Rugia.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off. That's Rugia.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compound drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugia website for full safety information. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Also, Locked On Buffs listeners, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. Okay, let's talk NFL preseason. We'll start with the elephant in the room, I guess, or the elephant that was no longer in the room. Shilo Sanders, right? Shilo Sanders, and I think this is going to come off as harsh, and it's not meant to. This is just how the business of the NFL works. Shilo Sanders goes undrafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, gets an opportunity with them to sort of earn a roster spot the hard way, right? You go through rookie mini camp, you go through training camp, and you're taking special teams reps with the third team, maybe the second team if you're lucky. Maybe they'll sprinkle you some first team reps in there, right? They gave him a chance. And when you're an undrafted free agent, and this is how I'm going to preface this. When you're an undrafted free agent, it'll be easier for the team to find reasons to cut you than it will be to keep you, right? There is no like, oh, we spent a X round pick on this guy. There is no, oh, we traded for this guy. They just picked you up for S&Gs, right? They thought maybe they did someone a favor. Maybe someone you knew was on the staff, right? Maybe you're a local kid. That's a lot of the opportunities that some of these guys get where it's like, oh, this guy went to South Florida, like we'll sign him. Oh, this guy went to Stanford. As if you're the 49ers, we'll pick him up, right? John Lynch has the ties there. Shilo Sanders was basically there on a prove it basis. And he proved that right now he's not ready to be an NFL player, or at least not for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So with stats that were already limited, he had 4 total tackles this preseason. He was actually having himself a decent game against the Buffalo Bills this past weekend. He had a tackle, and all of a sudden, the dude is getting into an altercation with Bills tight end. With one of the Bills tight ends. I think it was Zach Davidson was his name. So you're getting into an altercation with a guy that had 2 catches for 27 yards, may not even make the roster. And they're shoving. Shilo Sanders was pissed that the guy was blocking him, right? The guy didn't finish the rep because just like Shilo, he's fighting for a spot on the roster. And Shilo let he let it get to him, right? He got a little rattled and was pushing the guy, shoved him, and then swung at him, got ejected. And guess what? Todd Bowles called it inexcusable. You could see it when they showed his face. Todd Bowles was literally like this. And they cut him today, right? And now Shilo Sanders may get an opportunity in the CFL with the Toronto Argonauts. And who knows if that's going to work out for him. But it's just one of those things. Like I said, when you're an undrafted free agent, you're basically there on an internship, right? That's what it is. And Shilo Sanders was there on a prove-it basis, and he proved that he was not able to make the best out of the opportunity that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave him. And now he's going to be fighting for his career in the NFL. Now, I still think there's an opportunity out there for him somewhere, but I do think this has to be a tremendous learning moment for the son of a Pro Football Hall of Famer, which that's tough. Moving on to Shedeur Sanders. Now, Shedeur has had a complicated offseason, to say the least. I think the Browns have, I don't want to say give him the runaround, but they certainly haven't given him the full opportunity to, or I wouldn't say the full opportunity. They have a complicated quarterback situation. I'm pulling up his stats now. They have 5 quarterbacks as of yesterday. They released Tyler Huntley today. Shedeur got the start in the first preseason game, absolutely balled. Didn't play against the Eagles in the second preseason game because of his oblique. And then against the Rams on Saturday, it was basically, everything that could go wrong for Shedeur did, right? It was all of his bad habits from Colorado, drifting in the pocket, holding on to the ball too long. They all came back, right? Shedeur went 3 of 6 for 14 yards, averaging 2.3 yards per completion, with being sacked 5 times for 41 yards. Not great, right? For reference, and it didn't help that Dylan Gabriel, who's his main competition, went 12 of 19 for 129 yards and 1 touchdown, right? Shedeur Sanders isn't on an internship, and I see a lot of people upset that he's not getting the right opportunities from the Browns. I do think the Browns have mismanaged the quarterback situation a little bit in the sense of they just brought too many guys in, right? It didn't make sense what they were doing. They have Kenny Pickett, they have Shedeur Sanders, they have Joe Flacco, they have all these guys, Tyler Huntley. I never knew what the plan was, never knew what the path to playing time was for Shedeur, and they clearly aren't seeing something in him that makes them go, you know what, we need to see more of this guy. So he struggles. I believe as of recording that he's on the 53-man roster. That being said, a lot can happen. Who knows if they end up moving into the practice squad or whatever. But I think it was a tough weekend for the Sanders brothers. Obviously, Shilo ended up on the wrong end of the business side of the NFL. But I do think Shedeur has an opportunity, right? And I think this is the silver lining to this. Joe Flacco is 40 years old, and I think Joe Flacco was a one-time borderline elite quarterback. We don't need to rehash that. That was the whole debate for like a decade. But he's a really good quarterback, really serviceable. He did good in the system last year, the year before, and we know what he is. He's good. He's solid. Is he elite now? No. Is he going to win an MVP? No. Is he probably going to lead you to a Super Bowl? No. That being said, he's steady, right? Dillon Gabriel, I think, had a worse-ish preseason than Shedeur Sanders. That being said, they like something in him, whether it's his decision-making, his processing, whatever it is. Dillon Gabriel is doing something right. And the Browns also show more investment in Dillon Gabriel. They spent a third-round pick on him, right? Just by order of operations, Dillon Gabriel was picked in the third, Shedeur was picked in the fifth. So they naturally are going to be more focused on Dillon Gabriel, giving him opportunities. So realistically, it's a long NFL season, 18 games, 17 games, whatever. And they just there's going to be a lot of opportunities, right? Whether it's injuries, practice reps, the minimal reps he does get, or just someone's not performing. Shedeur Sanders has to be ready when his name's called, right? Shedeur Sanders no longer has the luxury of being like the guy. He is now the guy that comes in and it's like, oh, shoot, like you get 10 plays or you get a play or two because Joe Flacco's helmet came off, or, oh, Dillon Gabriel has turf toe this week and Joe Flacco's sick. He has the flu, right? You have to take advantage, right? I don't know how his opportunity is going to come, but he's probably going to get one, and he has to take advantage of it. Same thing with Shilo Sanders. I don't know if his opportunity is going to come in the NFL, but he needs to take advantage of his opportunity wherever that may come. When we come back, I'm going to be telling you guys about the 3 players who I think could be breakout stars for the Colorado Buffaloes this season. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th, tomorrow, is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel. Play your game. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow so you don't miss out on a moment of our coverage, because football season is this week, and we got some fun plans for this year. So let's talk about the Buffs, the breakout stars. I think last year Colorado is very star heavy. I do think that there's 3 guys that really stand out to me that could break out. And I'll start on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like I always go offense first. So I'll start defensively. I'm looking at the pass rushers. Arden Walker, 4.5 sacks last year, which was second on the team behind BJ Green. I think he's due for a huge year. He's a guy that's a senior, Denver, Colorado native, decided to run it back for a 5th year. The Colorado Buffaloes led the Big 12 in sacks last season, and I think Arden Walker, obviously at 4.5, was a major reason. But I also think he was kind of tapping into something. That was a huge year for him. You just look at his stats over his career; he tends to trend up, right? Year 1 to year 2 at Missouri went from 5 tackles to 6, nothing crazy. Year 2 at Missouri to year 1 at Colorado went from 6 tackles to 12 tackles. And then year 3, year one at Colorado, year 2, went from 12 total tackles to 33, had 1 sack to 4.5 sacks, and then he also forced a fumble. So if history is accurate, and they tend to say it does this thing known as repeating itself. Yeah, Arden Walker seems to be due for another step, right? He's basically been doubling or tripling his stats every year. So say he does double his stats, tackles wise, it's 66 tackles. Say he does double his sacks or his sack stats. That's 9 sacks, right? Colorado with someone getting 9 sacks would be huge, right? That shows the defense up front can disrupt things, can make life hard on the quarterbacks, because whether people in the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC want to admit it or not, the Big 12 has the best group of quarterbacks out there, right? They have Caden Salter, Sawyer Robinson, Rocco Becht, Avery Johnson, who we saw this weekend, although very rough conditions. They have so many guys, right? Jalen Daniels, Devin Dampier. They have so many guys, and you need to be able to be disruptive. And I think Arden Walker will be a big part of Colorado's defense this upcoming season. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball, Breakout year, Draylon Miller. Probably not a surprising pick. Probably not like a very exciting pick because everyone knows him. But 32 catches last year as a freshman, 277 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now he kind of was in and out of the lineup. Jimmy Horn's injury sort of let him get some reps, but I think we saw what to expect from Draylon Miller against Utah. 6 catches for 108 yards, 18 yards per catch, and a touchdown. Right, that was his best game. Followed it up with 5 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown. Right, when you feed Draylon Miller, he makes plays. He makes things happen, and I think Colorado's wide receiver room, although it's not Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn, LeJontay Western, Will Shepherd, I think it'll be pretty darn good. Right, Sincere Brown, massive, athletic, fast. JoJo Williams, jump ball problem, has only been playing receiver for like 2 years. And then you also have Omarion Miller, who I think you could probably plug in here as a guy that was a rotational dude who's been injured and will have an opportunity to make some impact this year, being that he is probably going to be the 1 or 2 receiver. Let's talk my third breakout player. Colorado is replacing a lot of talent on defense, and they're replacing leaders, dogs, whatever. Taufik Bayard, safety from USF, he's the guy on defense. I'm convinced that he's going to be Colorado's best player. If I could buy an island of stock or whatever, I'd purchase an island of Taufik Bayard stock, right? He could rush the passer, he could cover, he's willing to tackle, he's that leader. He's replacing, whether it's Shilo or Cameron Simon Craig, leaders, vocal guys, lead by example guys. He's doing it. And I expect him to be a name we hear a lot. And I say he's a breakout because I think he's a guy that will go from relatively unknown on the national landscape to like a guy who heading into next season will probably be a top 50 player in the sport. So those are my 3 breakout players for Colorado. You guys comment below. Who do you think is going to be a breakout star for the Buffs? Other names that I'd be willing to call breakout stars: DeKalen Taylor, speedy running back, undersized, but punt return, kick return, passing game, I expect a lot from him. Offensive line-wise, maybe Larry Johnson, as I get the hiccups. 6'7", massive dude. Was never really the guy in Knoxville. Now he has a chance to be the guy at right tackle, and I think that's huge for him. Defensively, Anquan Barnes is another one. Told him to lose some weight. Not me. The coaches did. The coaches told him to lose some weight, and he did. And now he's got a high motor. He's playing fast. He's strong. He's physical. He's huge. There's a lot of guys, a lot of options. So you guys comment below. Who do you think will be a breakout star for the Buffs? I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I will see you guys tomorrow.